welcome to the Yerky Boys. May the Kandrona shine and strengthen you. My name is Will.
My name is Jonathan.
And we are the Yerky Boys. Yes, this week we're going to be doing book 24, The Suspicion. Jonathan, can you tell me what month this book came out in?
Of course, this book came out in November 1998.
Wow. All the way, we're almost at 99 now.
We are almost in 99, also known as the Golden Year.
Mm-hmm. The year in which the civilization hit its peak.
Yeah, that's how I refer to it. Now, last week we kicked off season 3 with book 23.
Yes, last week.
And now, I'm just going to be transparent here. Viewers know we were gone. We did some filler episodes, and we also recorded book 23, and this was over a month ago.
Yes.
Okay. So even though you heard it last week, this is the first Animorphs book that we are reading in over a month.
Right. So if we're a little rusty or if we do a shitty job with you know what happened.
That's exactly right. Now I did, because I feel like I had to. I actually listened, which I don't normally do, to the entire episode 23, which, need I remind you, is our longest episode we ever recorded. Clocking in at 2 hours and 45 minutes, which is, I think, slightly longer than Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm not sure.
I am so sorry. You were never meant... Our listeners are the ones who are supposed to suffer through these podcasts, not us.
Now, let me just say, maybe I'm biased, but you know what? It was pretty good.
Of course.
Until there were some parts towards the end where, like, I kind of wanted to end it, and then you didn't let us end it.
No.
Those parts were bad.
No.
But
maybe there were some parts where you got a little off track toward the beginning, so we had to take extra time at the end in order to cover everything, but...
I don't know if that's the case. Well, the listeners will know. It'll be more fresh in their minds. But also, because it's been so long, we do have a little bit of sharing to do. Do you want to do that right now before we start talking about the book?
Yeah, I guess might as well.
Okay, great. So it's time for our segment where we respond to listener feedback. The sharing. First, a couple of things that were from a long time ago and I just forgot about. Some guy messaged me on Reddit, and I meant to mention this weeks ago, but they have an Animorphs podcast, and he just said he's enjoying our podcast, and that apparently they shouted us out on their podcast. They recommended us in episode 14. Which I don't know if they're, it's been a month. They were recording them, and I don't know if that's out yet. They had just released episode 7 at this time.
Yeah, you had mentioned this to me. They seemed like they were recording well ahead of time, unlike what we usually do.
Right. So anyway, the show is called Circle Yerk. so now it's
kind of vulgar, though. Don't you think?
I agree. It's disgusting, but I've paid it forward. I've paid it back. Now that look, I didn't listen to this show. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't listen to it. It's him and his wife, I believe. So, different, a little bit of a different dynamic than ours. They probably have less sex than we do.
Probably bicker a little less
with
too.
Each other. I mean, yeah. Okay, anyway, there's that. Another Reddit comment, I just noticed this on one of our... on the first post I made on the Animorphs subreddit, someone named Error Fox Detected commented a couple months ago, so they just stumbled across this. They finished... they were listening to book 20 episode. They just jumped right into book 20, so now we know who the freaks are who just jump into books, right? And he says, surprisingly enjoyable, and I'm only 20 minutes in. And then he said, I'm horrified by the length of this episode. I was when I first started it, and I will continue to be until I finish it. So a little bit of a, I think it's tongue in cheek. I think he's into it.
Only 20 minutes in, we're probably just starting to discuss Marco's weird face on the cover at that point.
Yeah. 20 minutes in is, I think we're on the dedication page. Now, okay, so that's just a couple fun little things. Oh, also, someone else, Hool18, we got to mention this on Reddit. Reached out to us about the recent K Applegate Q&A episodes, and said they're enjoying the podcast, which is nice. And they said they wanted to know, is this interview with KA real? AI? I feel like I'm supposed to understand that it is AI, given the time matrix justification.
I mean, the time matrix justification was supposed to clarify, not like obfuscate. So this was real. This is K. Applegate from the 90s. We did get her through the time matrix, hence some of the issues with the time juices. It's very transparent, all on board as we described it.
Yeah, all on board.
Above board? What did I want to say there? Yep. I don't know what I wanted. My brain's not entirely on.
That was it. I helped you.
Thank you.
Your brain's not on board. And so, okay, yeah, it's real. Yes, we've settled that. It's Kay Applegate. She'll be back next season.
Yes.
We're going to bring her back on. Okay.
Yeah. Nice to know people are listening and enjoying.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know that I'm always going to be checking that one Reddit thread, though, so probably better to email us.
Yeah, maybe we're done with that, yeah.
Next up, we have a couple. Those are just the appetizer, because we have a couple of big emails, because they're Animorphs fans. They don't write small emails.
Right.
These come in from, believe it or not, and please don't make any jokes in poor taste, but from someone named Chandler. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. You're right.
And Chandler has a couple of long emails that I'm going to read in full. And these are from over a month ago, so I hope it was worth the wait.
Wait, couple of long emails. Are these all from the same person?
Yeah, 2 emails from the same person. They came one day after the other.
Okay. Let's go.
I'm going to skim through it. He was listening to the backlog. At this time, he had listened up to book 8. Don't know if he's caught up now. Probably not. And I don't know. He has some backhanded, passive-aggressive things about how we were begging for engagement. And he said, maybe you've had more fans writing in since then. Considering only 5 people, including me, have rated you on the Apple Podcast app so far, I doubt it. Fuck off. Honestly, I read that and I went, 5 people rated us?
Yeah,
holy
right?
shit.
That ain't bad. I'm going to keep begging for engagement. I think it's great.
Yeah, well, let's work with you and the ladies.
That's correct. I have no shame.
Right. Chandler says, I'm kind of an OG fan. I was born the same year the first book came out, so it took me a few years to get into it. I remember reading books 1 through 5 as a kid, but by then they were kind of old, and I couldn't find a collection of the whole series in my libraries. This irritated me, and I never read past book 5 or 6 at the time, but that didn't stop me from watching the show, reading Andalite Chronicles, Hork-Bajir Chronicles, Megamorphs number 2, part 1. I couldn't resist dinosaurs. During quarantine, read all the books up until 43 or so, and then stopped for no reason. Recently decided to jump back in from the beginning, and your podcast is shaping up to be a fun companion to that experience. I really enjoy your show. Don't interrupt. And love all pop culture podcasts that use the We've Got Worm formula. You know that, right?
No, I have no idea what that means.
You don't know the We've Got Worm formula?
Nope.
Yeah, I had to look it up. It's another podcast where one guy introduces another guy to a thing. I guess that's the formula. I don't know. Sure. You bring a real energy to your commentary. Have excellent chemistry. These are not my words. I'm not making this up. And the dolphin sex exposition dump during episode 4 was hilarious and informative. If I have any constructive criticisms, get ready for this.
I don't know about this.
I do wish Will wouldn't inform Jonathan so much about information we receive in later books and allow him to form his own opinions and speculations more. But that ship has likely sailed at this point. Now I'm going to take a break here and allow you to respond to this if you'd like.
I would be interested in, I guess this is the problem because I would be interested in specific examples because I will say I struggle with that a lot. It is very hard not to spoil things for you while still talking about them in a way that is interesting because a lot of times, like what I find interesting about what's going on is very informed by what happens throughout the series. And I feel like if I can't spoil things, I have nothing to say. So I have to figure out, can I say something and hint at a future in a way that maybe you won't pick up on, but a listener would understand if they had finished. Um, and I always feel like I am walking that line. I would be interested in specific examples where he thinks that I didn't or do that well, because that would actually be very helpful to me. On the other hand, I'm a little bit afraid that maybe if he said those examples, you'd be like, oh, wait, that was a spoiler? I didn't realize that. Oh, shit, now I'm spoiled, kind of thing. So I don't know.
So Chandler, if you want, send in specific examples and mark them with spoilers so that I don't read them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will say from my perspective, I have actually felt like you have been pretty good about that. And my suspicion, not the suspicion, but my suspicion is that these are maybe things that because you have knowledge of the future books, they stand out to you. Whereas to me, if there are those references, they kind of bounce off my brain and I don't really remember them or consider them. So
Yeah.
I have not felt like you have spoiled anything for me in that way.
And bear in mind that John is a little dumb. So if I say something, that kind of hints at the future, he probably won't remember it next week if I'm not very obvious about it.
Huh. Maybe a couple times where maybe you've said like, "Oh, the Hork-Bajir Chronicles is my favorite of all Animorphs books." Maybe that's
sure, yeah,
something that probably made me like it less, if anything.
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's very hard.
Anyway, okay, we've said our piece there. Chandler continues. One thing I'd like to hear you guys discuss, maybe you have, I'm just not there yet, I don't know, are the themes that occur through cycles. And that's a capital C. Cycles here refers to a cycle of 5 main series novels moving through 5 narrators. The way I figure it, each cycle has some theme you can follow throughout the 5 books. In the first one, we get to know each character and each one gets something to fight for. Skimming here, blah, blah, blah. The second cycle focuses on world building. Blah, 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 blah. My favorite cycle starts with number 16, where I would argue each book deconstructs the role the POV character plays in the team. Interesting. Anyway, I don't expect you to read this way too long email on the podcast. You haven't listened to enough. But I would love to hear your thoughts, at least on the cycle concept. Keep up the great work, and I'll keep listening. May the Kandrona shine on you. I did skip over some of the cycles things that he wanted us to discuss, but I don't know. What do you think about we've broken it up into seasons, but maybe this is a little different than what he's talking about here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, is this a Chandler original, or is this something that exists in the community at large that I've never heard of?
I have no idea. It reads to me like a Chandler original.
Yeah, there's something to be said for the concept, right? In that, because I have talked a couple times about how each character's story has to be drawn out because you only get one book, I guess, every cycle, but you don't get to say, if I want to know what's going on with Marco, I don't get to find out next book. I have to wait until next Marco book. And so, but there is, I think it is reasonable to break it up there and say, we only get one book with each character for a while. So like what happened during this particular cycle, so to speak, of characters. There is something to what he's saying in terms of introduce character, do world building, and I see where he's coming from with role within the team on 16 through 20, sort of. I think Marco might be a little bit weak in that one. It's almost like 15 fits it better. I don't know. But there is something to be said for that idea. I maybe I will start paying attention to that going forward and see if there's anything to be said at least. It's certainly not something that I would like stop for, but yeah, I'll pay attention to it.
We've discussed it now, Chandler. Are you happy? Yeah, this sounds like something that I feel like I would need to step back and have like read more of the series to really have a fully formed opinion on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I love the concept in general of, you know, later entries into something deconstructing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'm sure we touched on some of that here and there during those episodes, but it wasn't something I don't know that I was really conscious of as like a theme. But
yeah, it's certainly interesting because it's not, you know, I have like a couple of ways that I like to divide these books up in my brain when I'm trying to construct an overarching narrative out of these little episodic pieces. And this is a really obvious way to break it up that I've never really considered heavily, despite thinking about it a lot. So, and I don't know, it's very intuitive to go about it that way. So I'm interested in doing it and looking at it from that perspective.
Wow. Now the other Chandler email, maybe we should save it for next week. It's it's an email about Sario Rips and the Forgotten, book 11. And you know, it's another lengthy one. I don't know. You want to talk about it now, or maybe we save something for next week as a tease?
Let's try not to make another longest episode ever. Maybe we do it next week.
Okay. All right. That sounds fair. That's reasonable.
Okay.
So Chandler, if you're listening to this, stay tuned, buddy.
Yeah. And we do know you exist. You know now.
Yeah, well, or not. He might not be caught up, or maybe he stopped listening.
Now maybe that he's listened to this episode, whenever that happens for him.
Right. I don't think this will be our longest episode ever. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But you know, there's no reason to pad out the beginning and tempt fate.
Okay, all right. We can move into the book now.
Yes. So
I do want to say a couple things up front. I thought I don't know that this book has aged that well. I feel like there's some weird kind of like pro-torture stuff throughout, and just the general kind of view of our politics and the government. I don't know. Things have changed in the last 20 years or so. Kiefer Sutherland is, of course, unimpeachable, his performance. And I appreciated kind of the shift in the tone and the medium. Very long, very, very long compared to other books. But I did enjoy almost all seasons, at least to some extent.
This is a really like classy and mature and clever take, because I was just going to say Amogus Sus.
I don't know what that means.
What do you're the Zoomer guy.
I don't know. I don't know if we're on the same wavelength right now.
Are we? No, because the book is The Suspicion. So
yeah, that's not what I was going for.
Oh, what were you doing? I thought you were doing some clever sounds like pun.
What the?
What are you doing? What are you doing right now?
Look, what I'm trying to say is, I guess it sounds like I made a mistake. You just kept saying we need to do 24 for next week. I accidentally watched through the TV show 24 starring Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, and I'm riffing on The Suspicion because it's sus.
Yours has nothing to do with mine.
No, it's book 24, The Suspicion. They're both, they're both basically the title.
You just, I feel like you took the wind right out of everything. It's fine. It was a stretch anyway. It was stupid. It was about the number instead of the title. Look, mine was bad. I'm not going to say it was good.
I opened by saying yours was good.
Yeah, but then you said something that I didn't understand. Among Us, or was that what you were doing?
Yeah. Okay, listen.
Whatever. All right. I'm sorry, Chandler. Okay, now that's it. I got it. I did the thing. Let's do the episode, please.
All right. Okay, so for longtime Animorphs readers who may not remember which number is which, this is the Helmicrons book. For those of you who don't know what that means, you will find out. This book is very divisive.
Oh, is it?
Helmicrons are very divisive.
It's divisive. Interesting. Okay.
Well, see, the problem is,
we're not just even at the cover yet, so just
we'll get there. I'm just gonna lay my cards on the table. The problem is that Helmicrons are great and I love them, but this book is very bad.
Wow.
I'm just gonna say it.
Coming right out with it.
Right out.
Okay.
At least that's like as a book. But I love the book. You hear what I like. I would.
Sure.
You can't skip this one. This one's great.
Right.
I don't know if you had similar opinions.
I agree with half of what you said.
Interesting. We may be on different sides of the Helmicrons debate.
We'll see. We'll see.
We will see, indeed. I should also point out that, I said we're getting into the era of ghost-written books, but I do believe this book is not ghost-written. This is a K.A. Applegate original.
According to Seropedia, K.A. and Michael Grant wrote this book.
Mm-hmm.
Their swan song. Before handing it over, or maybe after this book is when the publisher said, maybe we're overworking her.
I like to think this one's a little more of a K.A. Applegate. I feel like it's a little bit more the style of like, what are you doing, lady? Which feels more K.A. than Michael Grant. I'm sure he helped too, but
she needs a break. We should hire other writers just for her mental health.
All right, let's look at this cover.
Yeah, this cover right here.
So Cassie,
yeah, no, yeah, go ahead.
She's turning into an anteater.
Yep. She's going full Arthur on this cover.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now Arthur's an aardvark, I know, but similar.
I see the Arthur resemblance in Faces 2 and 3 here.
Yeah.
Getting kind of a long, Cassie walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Why the long face?"
Right. This is what is this shirt she's wearing? Is this a sweater? Is this a smock? Like it's so baggy. I know I'm being a real Rachel right now, but come on. What are you doing, Cassie?
I'm not gonna lie, she looks more stylish than she probably should. Like I don't see any like shit caked all over her. And there's no holes in this clothing. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, they take liberties. She's not in her morphing uniform, obviously, so.
That's true, too.
What counts is on the inside. Most of the time. 3 dots.
Oh, mine has 4.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
The one on Seropedia only has 3. What the fuck is that about?
Whoa, what? That's crazy. Because I'm looking at mine. It's got 4.
Okay, I don't know.
Maybe it's like a first edition thing. Maybe if you got the limited first edition print, then you get 4 dots.
Yeah, I feel like you're getting ripped off. You're short a dot here. This is a 2-line book slogan. That doesn't usually happen, right? It's usually just 1.
That is true, and it's a break from the recent pattern where they've been sort of telling you, like teasing you on the plot.
Yeah, this sure doesn't do that.
No. Now, the inner cover.
Which I'm looking at right now for the first time.
It is kind of insane.
Holy
it also
shit. Oh my god.
It also has the issue that some of these books have been having recently of just kind of spoiling the plot on the inner cover.
I mean, you got to describe this.
There's some anteaters. They are in like an enclosure. Some people are looking at them.
In a zoo.
In a zoo. There is a like red circle with an arrow pointing down at the ground, and the circle says magnified 100 times. There is in the circle a tongue, and it's the anteater's tongue. Covering it, there are a bunch of little aliens with like blue aliens in silver jumpsuits with too many legs.
4 to be precise.
4 legs, yes.
Yes. So again, there's a zoom in on the anteater's tongue, which has a bunch of tiny little creatures stuck and writhing and struggling on the tongue.
Yes.
This is by far the craziest inside cover we have ever seen. This is nuts.
It's pretty nuts. And I don't remember any construct like this magnified 100 times on an inner. Yeah.
Absolutely not. And they've never even shown a yerk on these inside covers. Like, it's usually just an animal and nothing else. This is so weird to depict the aliens like this in like a weird, 90s CG kind of style.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
They do kind of look a little Bugs Life-ish, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, shittier than that, but yeah, kind of.
Now,
this is nuts.
It is nuts. I do have something important to say about this inner cover that I found on Seropedia.
Oh.
And that is, Orson watch if you look very carefully at the crowd observing the anteaters on it's a step back of this book. I don't know is that what we're looking at? On the step back of this book, you can make out a cat poking its head between 2 of the people. The cat is none other than Orson. You remember David Mattingly, the artist's cat, Orson.
Oh.
Yeah. So there is an Orson on this cover. I'm looking for Orson.
On the inside cover where the people are watching?
On the step back, which I'm assuming is the inside cover, because I don't know what other bits of art.
Okay, well, I'm zooming in on this and I don't see a fucking cat, so
it says Orson watch.
I don't know what they're talking about. Is this a thing? Has this happened before? Orson watch? Fuck off, Seropedia.
Apparently it's like a thing on Anibase. Okay, it's between 2 of the people.
There's no cat.
Is it like under the fence?
I sort of see a spot where maybe that's supposed to be something, but it looks like nothing.
Am I being trolled right now?
There's no other place it could be other than like this little spot underneath the fence, like on the right, underneath this kid in the front. But it doesn't look like a cat. It looks like nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit, I saw that. I got excited. I kind of looked at the cover, didn't see the cat, and figured, my eyes are shitty anyway. Maybe John will find it, but...
No, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. This should be removed.
All right, yeah, go. Somebody get on Seropedia and edit it and fix it, please.
All right. I'm glad that that's taken care of. Now I think we can start talking about this book.
Well, we didn't do the inner quote.
I missed that. What is it?
It says, "At least it's better than being an ant." ...
That's, you know what? That's kind of funny. That's all right.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah, and it's kind of a callback. That's okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I mean, the picture's sort of too weird to like it just distracts from that. And then you're like, wait, what's better than being an ant? Being one of these little aliens? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it doesn't seem that much better than getting eaten.
Right. It seems the same as being an ant. But,
okay. All right. So, 30 minutes in, we're doing good.
This is fine.
All right.
We're not going to have a lot to say.
It's so I think I agree with you. We'll see what happens. But there sure is a lot of shit that happens
I
in this
do
book.
have a lot of notes, I'm not going to lie.
Oh boy. I feel like I have a lot of notes about like one section, maybe. Well, we'll see what happens.
Now, before we get into it, let's talk about how many notes we have and where they might be.
All right. Cassie and Rachel are hanging out. They're at Cassie's house. Cassie has been mucking the barn, and she's been collecting stuff for Goodwill. And
well, you skipped the very first thing you actually see, but I don't know if that's by design.
Wait, what are you talking about here?
Doesn't unless my version is different. Mine opens up with "Go forth, mighty warriors."
Oh yeah. Yes. So I was just going to talk about that in later, but yes. But yeah, I mean let's do it. So the very first thing you see in the book, it says, "Go forth, mighty warriors, go forth into space. All the galaxies shall tremble before the Helmicrons. All will obey us. All will be our slaves, for only we are truly worthy to be the lords of the universe." And it's credited as posthumous exhortation of the Emperor from the log of the Helmicron ship Galaxy Blaster. And then there's a first chapter that's just exposition. Right. Anyway, we go on to Cassie and Rachel. They're doing their stuff. Cassie's getting stuff for Goodwill. Rachel is hanging out, and she wants Cassie to come shopping and go to the beach with her. Whatever, classic Cassie and Rachel. They see a toy spaceship that's stuck to the side of an old water pump that doesn't work anymore. It's a little worrying because they don't recognize it, and this is where Cassie has hidden the Escafil device, the blue box that gives morphing powers that they found. It's inside this pump. The little toy ship is 3 or 4 inches long. It's described as being shaped like a baton with 3 clusters of long tubes at the far end and a fierce alien death's head bridge at the front. Don't quite know what that means. Anyway, they pry the toy off of the pump. They don't know what the heck it is, so they throw it in the box with the Goodwill stuff. Anyway, Cassie decides to go to the beach with Rachel. They do. We don't hear anything about it other than that Cassie is bored. But when they come back, they're wearing their bathing suits. So now Cassie can get all embarrassed because she's in her bathing suit in front of Jake. Teenagers. Jake has shown up to give them some more stuff for Goodwill, and at this point they see a second spaceship on the pump, and this one takes off and flies away. All right, how do we feel about this opening?
I mean, right away, it's just what the fuck is this? What the fuck is happening?
Yes, there are more Helmicron logs too.
Yes, they're not every chapter, but they are in between like several chapters.
Yeah, and
get a little blurb.
And I think the first 3 chapters all have one.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little hard for me to talk about this. I'm trying to talk about this book step by step, piece by piece, and not just dump all my thoughts out. I mean, I will just say, okay, this is a Cassie book.
Mm-hmm.
So like going into this, reminder to the audience, the last time we had a Cassie book was 19. What's it called? I don't remember what it's called.
The Departure.
Anymore. The Departure. Which was, I think we both agreed, certainly I feel that it is the best written Animorphs book. And it's also a revelatory book for Cassie's character specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I kind of have some expectations or at least questions going into this. You know, we last left Cassie. She seems to be turning towards this pacifism view, which of course has sort of been sidelined in the intervening books, but you know, wondering how are they going to deal with that? And the answer is in this book, they just kind of invented something else so they didn't have to deal with that is basically what happens, I think. But we do get a little bit in the beginning when she's explaining, you know, giving the exposition as usual. And she says that she likens the Yeerks to a disease, which feels like not where she should be at.
Yeah. I did notice that as well. That felt like Kay Applegate wrote something and was like, that's a fun little metaphor, and just threw it in without any regard for which character was saying it.
Yeah, or it's like, well, we have, if you haven't read another book, you have to know Yerk bad, right? So it's just like that overrides the character perspective usually. Yeah, so there's that.
This book is more of a 14 than a 19. That's for sure.
I don't. Maybe it's too early to say this, but I'm going to say it, and maybe we can see how we feel about it as we go. But I feel that this book, on a character level, is a complete failure, and there is nothing in contrast to even some of the worst books, even some that I don't like, such as Skunk Book, The Stranger, number 9.
Yeah, I mean, Skunk Book is a strong character book.
It's there. Yes. This book, by contrast, there is no reason this is a Cassie book. There is nothing. This could have been any one of them, and the story wouldn't have changed, and barely the perspective wouldn't have changed, other than, oh, Jake is cute. That's the only thing tying this book to a character, is that.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Like I said, like this is a book where this Helmacron thing that we just brought up is an idea that Kay Applegate wanted to put in a book, and she happened to be on a Cassie book. Maybe she didn't have a better idea. It's like we just did something really interesting and cool with Cassie's character. Kind of, you mentioned at the time it felt kind of like a late series book. Maybe she didn't know where to go with her next arc with Cassie yet, and was like, perfect place to throw this stupid story in. But yes, 100%. And I think that shows a little bit in this intro scene too, because like we really don't get much here, right? Like Cassie, it's just like, okay, Cassie is at the barn. What's it like? What's she doing? I don't know. She's there. Okay, she and Rachel go to the beach. What do they do there? One sentence where it says Cassie is bored. Oh, we get to come back and have an interaction with Jake. What happens? Oh, it's embarrassing because he's cute and he's into Cassie, but there's not, like, the interaction is minimal. There's very little, like, if I'm trying to think, like, what are the fun character moments here that I really want to, like, pick out and highlight, there's really nothing.
Compare this to other openings where they're like on a mission to rescue an animal or something.
Yeah.
This opening is just, it's nothing. You're right. It's we went to the beach a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just nothing.
Yeah. Even the openings where they're just trying to, like, chill at the mall, there's usually some bit where, like, they have a conversation or some event happens and they remark on it, and there'll be some interaction that really highlights who the characters are here. But here we just kind of get, like, it says Cassie dirty, Rachel pretty. Like, that's kind of what it says.
It's strange that this one is not ghost written, because it feels ghost written. This really, like, right away, the first chapter to me feels decidedly worse written than certainly the last 6 or 7 books. I mean, it's the tonally and structurally, it just feels off. It does, even for, Animorphs, which the writing is relatively simple, it feels dumber than the average Animorphs book.
Now, one of the reasons why she shifted over to ghostwriters around this time was that she started writing another series, the Everworld series. So it is possible that some of this is due to her splitting her attention. Like, she's not just cranking out an Animorphs book every month. She's also cranking out an Everworld book, and because that series is just starting, that one's got to be good.
This is the classic when Joss Whedon stepped away from Buffy to do Angel, or Matt Groening stepped away from Simpsons to work on Futurama more. This I feel like this happens in TV a lot. Because most books aren't as ongoing for as long as this, so TV seems like the best comparison to me. But yeah, that seems like a very likely, at least a partial explanation for what's happening here.
Yeah. Now, going back to this first chapter where you said right off the bat, I think also this is the worst integrated exposition so far. I think is this the first time where literally nothing happens in all of chapter 1? It's just exposition. Because I feel like normally we get like a paragraph or two of something happening in between it, or like all the things they need to say, they're spaced out between chapters 1 through 2, 1 through 3, while other stuff happens. Here you could, other than that little excerpt from the Galaxy Blaster that starts the page, you could skip it and you would lose literally nothing.
Yeah, definitely. There's also, jumping ahead a tiny bit, there's when we first see Axe, she describes him, it's in the middle of a sentence, Axe in his own natural Andalite body, and then in parentheses, which is a cross between a blue deer, a centaur, and a scorpion. Close parentheses. Like, they're so tired of writing this. Like, it's a fucking Andalite, all right? Just deal with it.
You better know what an Andalite is, Ben. Even if you have, like, your friend who introduced you to the series should have told you what an Andalite is.
Yes. Look, it's a Chronicles. Go look at that cover, okay? Jesus. Yeah, it really feels rushed and lazy. Now there are a couple I don't know. The thing about Rachel, I think that maybe she really is some kind of a pod person. I don't know if we're supposed to be suspicious of her, but Cassie makes some jokes about, I don't even think dirt will touch you. I don't think it'll stick to you because you're so perfect. And then she throws some dirt at her, and then Rachel laughs, but she still refuses to show Cassie her hand. She won't confirm or deny if dirt does stick to her. This is like the Thing or something. I don't trust Rachel, and I think she's a pod person.
Interesting. Do you think she's always been a pod person, or do you think this is a recent development?
That I don't know. That's a tough call. Okay, now the business of Jake and Cassie here, the cute Jake and Cassie business. She says that just as Jake has never seen her in a bathing suit before. I call bullshit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just wrong.
This has come up before, but I guess K. Applegate does not consider Megamorphs 1 canon, in which they do attend a pool party. Feel like they must have been in bathing suits, right?
It is canon because she's mentioned the Valik in mainstream books since then, main series, whatever. I don't know.
But this is not the first time, because remember, Axe also didn't know what a pool was.
Oh, right, yeah.
This party now is like the Phantom Party. I don't know. They got their memories wiped after this party. But I do like when Rachel's describing to Cassie. Cassie's like, "Oh no, he thinks I'm ugly," and Jake is like nervous around her, and Rachel says, "No, that's his 'she looks hot, but I better hide it' look." And I'm like, "Yeah, Rachel knows that look very well." Rachel has seen Jake do that look a lot. She knows. She's knows what that is.
You're right.
Yeah. So anyway, the spaceship.
Yeah, do we need to talk about these other Helmicron excerpts?
I don't want to. I do want to talk about what a death's head is, but maybe we'll get into more of the...
Why don't we talk about it? Because I don't quite know what that means.
I looked up the definition. Because this is something that Cassie a couple of times describes the Helmicron spaceship as having a death's head on it. Yes. Or being shaped like a death's head.
Yeah,
it's a hyphenated word. According to Merriam-Webster, the definition of death's head is a human skull or a depiction of a human skull symbolizing death. So it's a skull.
It's like a pirate ship.
I guess. I've never heard this term before, and it's put in here as if everyone knows what this means. I don't know. Maybe I'm the weirdo.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe at one point I knew. Clearly, I've read this book since I was a kid. I should know, but maybe I don't.
Oh well. Sometimes things don't stick.
Yeah. All All right, they don't know what's up with this ship. They get the other Animorphs together. Axe doesn't know what's up with this ship. He isn't. So they figure, well, you know what? Let's go to Goodwill and see if we can find the ship that we donated, that we threw in the box and donated. So uh, Jake, Rachel, and Cassie go there. They have to get past the guy working there who by saying they donated something by mistake. And, of course he knows all about the alien properties, sci-fi properties, and it's like a funny moment, haha, because he's like, you better come out with a Romulan ship or anyway. Uh they go in the back, they're looking around, they find the ship, but then the second ship flies in and shoots at them. And they get they have these little pinprick lasers, and they burn them. But it's not like a serious thing. Uh, Jake's like, "Oh, everybody retreat," but Rachel's like, "Screw that," and she picks up a baseball bat and starts attacking them. Classic Rachel. Uh, the working ship jump starts the ship that they donated, so now they're both working, and the ships like stare them down and send them a message in thought speech that identifies themselves as Helmicrons, and they demand the Esquivel device. They call it a power source, and they're like, "We will crush you. We will crush everyone on this puny planet. We are here to conquer. We are the best." And then the ships fly out and fly back toward Cassie's farm to get the blue box. All right.
The blue box.
The blue box. It's all about this blue box.
I did find it interesting that the Esquivel device is a focal point of this story so soon after the David trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know, that it feels like that could have been a thing we don't hear about for a long time, but I guess it's I don't know. Maybe it's from a cynical perspective a sign, like you said, that they didn't know where to go, so they're just like, well, I don't know, what do we have? Oh, this blue box. They haven't had that for too long. I guess maybe somebody wants that too or something.
Mm.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know. These Helmicrons.
These Helmicrons, I love them.
Okay. They're very it's very Invader Zim to me, right? The whole, I'm the greatest in the world and I'm going to take over the world, when they're actually morons.
Like tiny and shitty. Yeah.
They're all a little loony. Yeah, they're also, this is basically this is Pikmin. The Pikmin series, you're a little tiny spaceship and you fly to Earth and you're tiny.
Helmicrons are basically Pikmin.
Yeah, well, not the Pikmin, but the people from the planet Hakotate who visit Earth where the Pikmin live.
Yeah, that's basically exactly the same as Helmicrons in every way.
Well, it's what I was thinking of. And then I thought of course, this will become more apparent, I think, as we go, but small soldiers, I feel like this is Small Soldiers, which would have just been in theaters, I think, this year. And also this whole book in general, this plot to me really feels very Goosebumps. Does it feel Goosebumps to you?
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, I might be getting a little ahead here, but yeah, this is something that will probably be expanded on by us. There are a lot of kids properties that are like, what if you were small? What if there was a really small guy in the world? How different would the world be if you were small?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a Goosebumps where somebody gets shrunk. There's probably 7.
Yeah.
Or
no, I can't think
little
of one, but you
things
gotta be right.
attack you. Yeah, it feels like a silly one-off thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't know. So those are just general thoughts about Helmicrons, I suppose, before we'll learn more about them later.
Yes, yeah, we will learn more about them. For now, we've got our first taste of Helmicrons, and what we know is that they're very over dramatic. They kind of hate each other and everyone else. It is worth noting that the two ships, everyone in the two ships is constantly shit talking the other ship. right?
Yeah.
They're all like, oh, we helped out the other ship because they suck and are losers, and they needed our help because we're great.
Right. The Planet Crusher and the Galaxy Blaster.
Yes. Those are the names of the two ships.
A little, to be honest, a little confusing. When, like, you just introduced an alien race that's tiny and there's two of them and they don't like each other. It's kind of a lot for 4 chapters.
Yeah, yes. And to make it more confusing, I might as well bring this up right now since we're talking about confusion. She accidentally switches which ship is which, like 2/3 of the way through this book.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, no, well, that's the part of the book where things are going to go a little off the rails when she does it, but...
Yeah. Seems a little reckless to me right away that the first instinct of the Animorphs is let's start smashing these things with a bat.
That's Rachel. Jake's instinct was to back down.
Okay.
Rachel disobeyed orders and started going out with a baseball bat.
Yeah, we don't know anything about you'll just take the lives of thousands of creatures on a ship we just learned of. Yeah. Okay.
When aliens land, Rachel is not the ambassador that you want.
Tobias is also in this scene. Yeah, I don't know if he says a single word. I don't know, but there's one point where they're like, let's tell Tobias, and I'm like, huh? Has he said anything so far? Why is he even here? I don't know. Where did we? I sometimes I get lost here between my notes and where we are in the book. I don't know. What's your next point?
So
before I complain more.
No, I mean right now I will say at all points it is a little hard to follow what's happening in this book. Right now, if I understand what's going on, they got the whole group together. They went to the Goodwill. Cassie, Rachel, and Jake are in the Goodwill. Tobias, Marco, and Axe are outside, but Tobias is farther away somehow. Like maybe Tobias is catching up with them. I'm not quite sure how this happened. It's definitely not clear when they're in the Goodwill that this is what's up, because they kind of have a conversation, but they don't tell you how they got there, and then they kind of go to the Goodwill, but they don't tell you how they got there, but then it becomes clear that they aren't all in the Goodwill, and then when they leave, they leave and they're immediately like, okay, Marco and Axe, I see Tobias off in the distance, let's go help him. The positioning of where everybody is and what they're doing is not clear, at all.
It's like someone wrote a recipe, but they left a couple steps out. So they jumped from now mix in the dough, and you're like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me to get dough. There's dough involved or something. I don't know how to cook, so this is a bad choice of analogy, but yeah, it is a little bit, and not even in a way that's obvious. It's in a subtle way where you're all of a sudden you're reading a few paragraphs and you go, wait a minute, do I know what's happening?
Yeah.
I was reading it like I thought I did, but now I don't.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And trying to write a summary of this book at times did require a little bit of checking back to make sure that I said what actually happened.
Yeah, that's important to note. Here's a little bit of a tangent, but it relates to this book. Here's just a suggestion, a general suggestion for the Animorphs. If they're listening to this, to the Animorphs, here's a little idea from me that maybe you could take going forward. Suggestion. All of you maybe go out and get red-tailed hawk morphs. This way, I will never again have to read about how you can't fly together because, boy, a bird watcher would be like, what the fuck? I'm so tired of reading this description. We had to fly separately because we'd make a science book look like a crazy shit show. You can morph any fucking bird that you can find. Just all of you get the same fucking bird then, and shut the fuck up.
I mean, part of this might be Tobias's problem. This does come back to the whole thing. It's similar to when David, when they were like, you want to get a smaller, more agile bird, and he was like, no, I want the strong bird, and it's get fucking both. right? Why can't you get like some crows, right, or something like that for when you need to? Like, I get part of it is going to be that Tobias is a racist and won't want to morph into a crow, but like, get some crows. Yeah, way you can cover ground, and everyone will be like, "Oh, what's that? It's a large group of crows all flying together."
Yeah,
It's cool. It's
pigeons.
fine. It's perfect.
Yeah,
They have
there's
seagulls.
they have seagulls. They do. They have seagulls. Yeah. Why are we fucking around with an osprey right now? What are you doing? Because then we'd have to read about them going to a goddamn McDonald's dumpster for the 5th time.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, these are the kinds of things that don't bother me when there are other things to focus on.
Yeah. I mean, they also mention in this that that birds of prey are not actually equipped for long distances very well. Like, they're not good. And they even mention, like, if I had, at one point in this upcoming section, they're like, if I had been a goose, then goose they're designed to fly for. Why don't they get a bunch of geese? Right? Then they could be in a group, and they could be in a group. They could walk through the middle of the city. Nobody would notice as a bunch of geese. They wouldn't have to do the thing where it's like, oh man, somebody saw a bald eagle. Now everyone's look. No, it's a bunch of geese. They'd have the stamina to fly long distances. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a goose in Cassie's barn right now. She was given it a suppository this morning.
Yeah, easy.
That's in the book, folks. It's canon.
All right. What do you think when Jake describes the ship as a flying thing and asks him what a flying thing is, to which Marco clarifies that would be a thing that flies?
I thought that was really funny.
It's pretty good.
And I also liked 2 pages later when God, I lost it, but they're in the Goodwill, the guy asks, what kind of spaceship was it? And Jake says, toy.
Oh yeah.
Basically the same joke. Like the next page is they did not even pretend, but you know what? It was funny twice. So yeah. Listen, there are some good parts in this book.
Jake's kind of stupid sometimes.
What kind of spaceship? Toy. Because he knows there's real spaceships.
That's true. I didn't consider that aspect of it.
Yeah, right. From his perspective, that's an important clarification.
That's true. All right. Well, so we've been talking about them as birds. When they leave, they see that the ships are in a dogfight with Tobias, so they join up and drive the ships off, because they're like shooting at Tobias's eyes and trying to blind him and all of that. They chase the ships off, then they follow them back to the barn. The Helmicrons have cut open the pump, and they are tractor beaming at the Escafil device. They attack the Helmicrons. They tire quickly, like I said. The Helmicrons are winning, and the one Helmicron ship flies off into the barn with the box, and Cassie demorphs to human, follows them into the barn. We kind of already covered this section. Is there anything else we want to say about them being birds and flying around?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think the only real note I have about this section is just like, this is the part of the book where, by the formula, we should be like doing our first mission and like failing at reconnaissance or uncovering some revelation. And I guess that's what we're doing here. We're having our first like fight, I guess. But it's I don't know. It doesn't feel like as impact. It feels like we're stretching out scene 1 more than it feels like we're hitting some, first third of the book beat.
Yeah, it feels like a very long opening.
Yeah, and it's also already just so chaotic, the way that this fight is described, the way that the movement from location to location is described. It's like, it's very like, what the hell is going on? I'm getting lost.
I do like the threat that is there from the Helmicrons in this, in the sense that they're all joking about them, they're fucking stupid, but it's maybe a tiny laser, but like that could blind you. you know?
Yeah, especially if you're a small animal like a bird.
Yeah, so, and again, small soldiers, you know? They're
Yeah.
small, but they can carry a nail gun and, like,
Yeah.
hurt you. So, you know, that's something.
And the blue box does escalate the danger a little bit because there is this kind of background threat of if the Helmicrons get this blue box and are just flying around with it, they suck. If they're too visible and the Animorphs can't stop them, what if the Yeerks just go take it or something, Um,
Yeah.
so there is something to be said there, and there are a couple of mentions of like, oh, we're just having this crazy alien fight in Cassie's backyard. Good thing her parents aren't home. Good thing nobody's watching. So I feel like there is also some threat beyond just the Helmicrons themselves. Um, but we're not really at the gimmick here of the book because now we're gonna do the real gimmick, which so Cassie's talking to the Helmicrons in the barn. She's like, "We're a bit big to conquer," and they shoot her with a shrinking ray, and Cassie starts shrinking. And Tobias and Marco both come into the barn, and they both get shrunk too, but they warn the others to stay out. So Tobias and Marco and Cassie all shrink down to the same size as a Helmicron, which is about a 16th of an inch, and they're all the same height. So when you're picturing this, you can picture Tobias as being the same height as Cassie and Marco, even though he's still a bird.
I can't, but I know I'm supposed to.
That's what's happening here. He looks very big to them. So they're all shrunk now.
Why? Okay, it's fine. Keep going.
Rachel is throwing bricks at the ships. They have like a little standoff. She almost hits Cassie and the other shrunken people by mistake, whatever, etc. Um, at some point in the chaos, Jake grabs the blue box back from the ships, and they get the ships to back off. And we get our first introduction to them being shrunk. Cassie tries to morph to see what will happen, but their morphs are all relative to their size. So if Cassie tries to morph a bird, she gets even smaller. So they're shrinking. They're all small now.
Yeah.
They get small.
They even they directly call it out and say, "Honey, I shrunk the Animorphs."
Mm-hmm.
And that is what most of this book now becomes.
Yes.
Isn't it crazy how shit's big now?
Yeah, there's a lot of padding around the idea that they are small. I have to wonder that them shrinking down really, really tiny like this. I have to wonder if anyone got any fetishes from reading this. Aside from myself,
you have to.
You
have to.
If anyone else got any fetishes.
Yeah, well, I mean, not this part.
Well, there might be even more later, but
yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. There's not as much vor in this as, say, Megamorph's Time of the Dinosaurs, but...
Right, well, it doesn't have to be vor, exactly. There's plenty of...
There is a little vor, I guess, at the end. I mean, we've seen it in the inside cover.
That's true, yeah. There's a lot of vor in Animorphs.
Yeah, Animorphs. I have questions about Helmicrons.
Uh-huh. What are your questions about Helmicrons?
Well, I guess my leading question is the Escafil device.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's something that's always good in storytelling.
Yeah.
If you have a thing that does a thing, you should definitely just decide that it also does another thing and not explain it.
Yes. So they do, what they say in here is that the way that the Helmicrons shrink them, they use the Escafil devices as a power source, but they also use it, they say it's the same, transformational power, quote unquote, but they're using it to shrink them rather than turn them into an animal.
They know what this thing is. Maybe this hasn't been revealed quite yet, but they're aware of morphing power, and they know that there are morph capable beings.
It's interesting because they must have discovered the idea of transformational power like on their own, because Axe does not know what these things are. Like they didn't learn this from Andalites.
They must have. They clearly came into contact with them or people who had the device somewhere.
Yeah, like I said, maybe they invented it on their own to change
They
things sizes.
coincidentally also invented this thing.
Well, they didn't. Maybe it wasn't the bot, but they discovered the idea of the technology, and maybe they discovered it faster because it was very important to change things sizes. So their top scientists worked on it, and so when they saw the blue box, they didn't know what it was, but they recognized that it was using the same kind of transformational energy wavelength in through zero space.
Oh, okay. So, okay, you done? I mean, again, okay, whatever. Put that aside. I don't know. It's a power source. It somehow can be used for different things. We didn't know that before. Okay. Helmicrons. What? First of all, why did they come to Earth? How did they
conquer?
How did they know this thing was here in this spot? Okay, I guess their sensors picked it up.
Yeah, because they ran out of power in their ship, so they scanned for a power source and they found it.
They ran out of power. From where? Where were they coming from that had power and now they need it again?
They were coming from space. They were at the Emperor's mothership and they were scouting for planets to conquer.
Okay, answer this one. How about this?
I got answers for whatever you ask me.
What is the MO of the Helmicrons? Do they go to every planet and just shrink the entire population of the planet to dominate them? Because I've got to assume they're smaller than almost every other life form that is sentient in the universe. So is this what they do? They always have a shrink ray and they just go around shrinking?
I think what they do is that half the time they go to a planet that just has like regular bugs, and then they conquer the regular bugs and declare themselves lords of the universe. And the other half the time they go to a planet that has real species, and they shrink like two guys and declare themselves lord of the universe, and then get blown up.
Okay.
I think that's what happens.
So
that's what I'm picturing.
They don't have really any success rate.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because at the rate at which they shrink things, it seems like it would take them maybe 40 years to actually shrink a significant portion of the Earth population.
Yeah, I don't imagine that Helmicrons have ever conquered a sentient species.
Okay, so they're just dumbasses.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that tracks with what's in the book, I suppose. All right. I think, by the way, so I got the impression, reading my ebook version, I think I'm missing out on some font size changes here.
I was wondering if you were getting that, but yes. Whenever the ships shoot lasers, the Helmicron ships, it goes like tew, tew, but it's in very tiny font. And when Cassie and Marco and such have shrunken, they're trying to yell like, "Don't come in here," but it's also in very small font. And there's actually a quote that says, "To really convey how little sound we could make, we'd need microscopic print."
Yeah, that was my clue. That was what made me realize, because there were a couple parts where it was like, he said, "Come over here," but it sounded more like, "Come over here." And I was like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What? Okay. So that's kind of fun. It's sort of fun. I would have really liked that as a kid, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is a fun little bit for sure.
And again, and the microscopic print also, just got to point out once again, in the vein of as small as a period on this page, another very fourth wall reference to this being a published book.
Yeah, I knew
I'm not going to get into it.
Come back to that.
I think it's just important to note it when it happens. That's all.
I've
said my piece on it already.
That's fine. Axe has some zingers in this section.
Oh yeah.
Just a couple of them, like the Helmicrons talking about blown up the planet, and he says, "Not if my friend hits you with the dense oblong cube she is holding," which I thought was pretty good. That's a pretty good one-liner right there.
Uh-huh.
He also
Not
says
bad.
they say you inferior humans, blah blah blah, and he says, "I am not an inferior human. I am an Andalite."
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and he also says that perhaps you should not mention that you build houses out of bricks. The Helmicrons are already contemptuous of humans.
I don't know that I understood that joke.
Well,
What
like
is?
because it's a shitty thing to build a house out of. You should build it out of sci-fi
Oh, I see.
materials. I think that's what
Okay.
he's getting at.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
You know a good one-liner when you have to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead. At one point, they say someone has the fingers the size of Taxons.
Oh yeah, I think that was yeah.
That's kind of a funny to use something that only makes sense to Animorphs.
If this was your first book and you're just like, don't know what that means.
Yeah, they probably got a one-word reference in the opening chapter.
I believe they do, but that doesn't really help.
Yeah, I also loved this line. I actually really liked was when they're shrunk, and Cassie says, "For one thing, dirt wasn't dirt anymore; it was rocks." I don't know why. I gotta say, this book was honestly kind of a roller coaster for me. Maybe it doesn't sound that way in retrospect, but at least in the first 2/3, I was kind of going back and forth of this is really stupid, but this part is really funny or weird or interesting, and I was sort of uncertain which way it was going to land by the end.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, I do like this book. As a kid, I loved this book because I love how stupid and dumb the Helmicrons are, and like a lot of them being small stuff was like interesting to me. When you go back and read it, the structure is all over the place, terrible. The characters are not well done. Uh, a lot of the stuff that was so interesting about them being small as a kid kind of feels like padding, where it'll be like, okay, yeah, that's cool with the dirt as rocks, but then you also just you just kept doing it, and I kind of like I got the picture. And maybe as a kid, I was like, but what if you were small? I want more of the picture. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I that makes sense to me. I mean, this is a note that I had later. It will come up later, but it's relevant even now. We get it. Things are big. There are so many lines about, and this thing was the size of this thing, and this thing, well, it was as big as this thing. I was like, okay, I understand. They're big. I understand.
At least 2/3 of the references section in this book is going to be as big as X.
Yeah, it was so annoying to read by the end. I was getting angry.
Now, speaking of you getting angry,
Uh-huh.
If we assume that a flea is no more than a 16th of an inch long normally, it would be 1/960th of the height of a 5-foot human. Thus, if we assume that you are currently, let us say, a quarter of an inch tall, it follows that your flea height, or that your flea morph would be 1/4 inch divided by 960. Thus, your flea morph would be 0.0002604 of an inch. Axe, I don't think we're a quarter inch. I think we're smaller than that. Then you should make appropriate adjustments to the equation. For example, if you are a 16th of an inch, and that would be my best estimate, that translates as 0.0625 inches divided by 960, which would make your flea morph 0.0000651 inches.
Here's my challenge to Yerky Boys listeners. Number one, go through all that math, double check it, and see if it's accurate. And then once you have done that, kill yourself.
I definitely did go through that as a child reading this, but also as a child reading this, I was in elementary school and it was an appropriate level of math for me to think about and not just like, why are we doing this? Why is this all here? Please.
By the way, call the suicide prevention hotline if you have any thoughts about suicide. You skipped the only part that made this section tolerable. Which is when Marco says, if he says thus again, I'm going to bite him on the hoof.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that part because I wanted you to be
It would have been
angry.
fun. Yeah, I get it.
There's a dog barking in the background. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. It's fine.
Okay. I don't think he's going to stop.
Well, that's just whatever. It's fine.
Should I go stop him?
No. I don't hear it anymore.
All right, it's still happening.
Well, it's as long as you're talking, it's fine.
Okay.
Well, it's not. Then, I don't know. Who gives a shit?
All right. I guess the listeners will have to put up with this dog.
It's great. I don't know. Okay, are we? I'm ready for Cassie's dad.
Yeah. So Cassie's dad comes in at this point. The Helmicron ships have retreated. They're shrunk. And Cassie's dad shows up, and we get like a funny chapter sort of thing, right? Where
Axe has all these serious chapters.
Right, yes. Axe has to demorph Jake and Rachel, they have to like cover for what's going on. Like, I don't know where Cassie is. We came by looking for her. Oh, this is just this weird guy we know. And Axe has to be like, I'm a normal human. And they do some antics, and Cassie's dad gets pissed and is like, please leave my house. And they all have to leave. And fortunately, he doesn't step on Marco and Cassie, although he does kick some dust on them, and they get like buried in the particles. So this is a very short section, but I think it's worth kind of honing in on just because of all of Axe's dumb bullshit. Honestly, this is probably the most enjoyable chapter so far.
I mean, it's the first canonical meeting of Axe and Cassie's dad.
In Human Morph, I believe. Hasn't
That's
he
what they
met
say.
Cassie? Hasn't he met Cassie's dad before in Jake Morph?
Listen, I don't know. Maybe
and he ate
probably
all that chili.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right. But that was a different guy.
That's true. Yes.
And I like that he says he's from Canada, therefore he is Canadese.
Yeah, first he says he's from the Republic of Ivory Coast, and then when Cassie's dad doesn't believe him, he says Equatorial Guinea, Republic of Kyrgyzstan, and then finally Canada.
Yeah. Now, I don't know why Axe would think that if you're from Canada, you're called Canadese when he's an Andalite and he's not from Andalite.
Yeah, maybe he should have been like, I am Canada.
Yeah, I'm from the planet Canada.
I am a Canada. But yes, this is all because Axe has a world almanac. I believe that's been brought up before, that he has a world almanac.
Perhaps.
So he's learning about the Earth, but it's not really helping him be a normal human.
Are we getting to the ant's strength now, or are we just talking about Cassie's dad in this
Yeah,
scene?
I mean, we can talk about the ant's strength. I just wanted to highlight the Axe being a silly guy here, and Cassie's dad not having any patience for him. But yeah, they do spend a little bit of time here on the like, you're smaller now, so that means you're stronger. It's like Ant-Man, because it's the square cube bullshit, that sort of thing.
It doesn't make sense.
That makes sense.
Or as Cassie says in the book, shortly after I thought it in my own head, quote, "This doesn't make sense, does it?"
It does make sense. What doesn't make sense is a lot of other stuff. Yeah, if you shrank down that small, you would be much stronger, but you would also like a lot of like you would what is it?
Yeah,
I don't even know. There's a lot of shit that wouldn't work.
Now I'm gonna admit I'm ignorant about a lot of things in the world, so I really don't know the answer to these questions. But like, it's not ants have got to have something else going on. It's not like the fact that they're small that makes them strong.
Yeah, it is.
But like flies aren't strong.
Well, I mean, there is something else going on, but they kind of so what it is here is, and you're gonna hate this, as you get small, right? The mass of things is going to shrink cubically because the total volume is shrinking cubically. The strength of your muscle is going to shrink as the square because the strength of your muscle is proportional to the cross-sectional area. So the mass of everything you're trying to move around you is going to shrink faster than the strength of your muscle. A muscle of the same size is going to be relatively stronger compared to your weight. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the Ant-Man thing. Ant-Man does this too, and
yes, but Ant-Man has a sci-fi suit that explains it. It's not that he's just small; he has a magic suit too.
That's also true, and that's why he can do some things that don't make sense. But like that is part of why he's still strong.
Okay, all right, fine. So there's at least some halfway.
Now, by this same logic, they should immediately freeze to death because they're like they're the reason why like small animals chitter and move around so much and all that shit is because they don't retain heat as well for the same kind of reason that their mass shrinks faster than their surface area, and large animals would overheat if they moved that much, so they tend to be more lazy and slow moving. So, like, it doesn't actually make sense, or at least not everything makes sense.
Remember that episode of Family Matters where they get shrunk?
No.
Yeah, Urkel invents a shrink ray, and him and Carl, he shrinks them both down by accident, and they're, like, stuck on the counter, and they're sitting next to giant Cheerios and, like, eating a big Cheerio, and they have to try to get the family's attention to save them.
It sounds like it rules.
Yeah, it's one of the best episodes. Anyway.
Yeah. It sounds really good. But yeah, there's a bunch of shit like that. But like the funny thing is that she brings it up, but then the characters discuss it as though they were teenagers who didn't understand it, and it makes me feel like Kay Applegate doesn't really understand it either. Like Tobias sort of alludes to what I'm saying, where he says like the muscles increase geometrically, but then he talks about like little birds flap their wings faster, and they're like, oh, that's speed, not strength. Oh, but maybe that's the same thing. Oh, but gymnasts have to be smaller. But is that the same thing, or is that some other thing? And they don't explain it or understand it in the book, and it's like, why is this here? Like either explain what it actually is so the kids understand it, or don't.
But also, this doesn't really. Does this ever matter? I don't remember them like using their ant strength for anything cool, do they? Or maybe I just checked out at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think they're like Tobias can fly higher and faster, and he can carry heavier loads. There's like a point where they have to crawl on their knees, and it's really easy. Not really. Yeah. It's mostly here so that she can be like, isn't this an interesting insect phenomenon?
Yeah, it feels like if like this should be the point of the book or something. If you're gonna dwell on it,
yeah,
this should be the thing. I don't. And, and another thing while we're on the subject here, all these descriptions of things being big and how crazy it is, they've been bugs before.
Yes.
This isn't that different from 100 morphs they've already done. So I don't even understand why it's such a big deal in this book.
Yeah. No, I feel. I mean, I guess it's because they're humans now. But yes, like they have already been bugs. They do already understand, like, oh, if you get dropped from a big height, it doesn't kill you. Oh, I can push dirt around. Yeah, I don't know. They've been ants.
It's so weird. Yes, it makes no sense. It's like if there was a book where the next book they get the power of flight, and then they're like, wow, the whole book is about how crazy it is they can fly, and they don't mention the fact that they've been birds 55 times. Like,
well, no spoilers, but there may be some. I don't. You know what? I don't even know.
Oh, Chandler's not going to like that.
Superman.
Okay. All right.
So speaking of bugs, the Helmacrons show up. We get to see Helmacrons. We haven't seen them before. So I guess I'll describe them. They're the little guys on the cover, right? Like they have heads shaped like an inverted pyramid, they say, with eyes sitting on top and insect mouths. They have 4 legs, and they're wearing jumpsuits. They all have Dragon beams, and they're like become our slaves or die, right? That sort of thing. The two ships, the other Helmicrons show up. They're like, no, these are our prisoners. You can't take. They're wearing different colored jumpsuits. So as this standoff is happening, the other Animorphs show up. They show up as roaches. They are enormous, comparatively speaking, and Axe is a spider, and they describe him, and he's rather horrifying. The Helmicrons retreat to their ships and start blasting holes in them. The Animorphs as bugs are getting absolutely shredded by these things. And so Cassie and Margot decide to surrender to them. Other than the spider being horrifying, the only thing I really wanted to say about this is that the Helmicrons here, when they achieve victory, they go, neep, 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 which I would like to point out is the same sound that Deinonychus makes.
From Deinonychus from Megamorphs 2?
From Megamorphs 2, yes. They also went neep, neep.
See, where I went reading this, neep, neep, and like they're wearing like gold capes, or at least some of them are. I was like, this is Mars Attacks now. Neep, neep, back, back, back. You know, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's nothing. Everything in this book just reminds me of stuff I like more.
That means it's good.
At least the description of the Helmicrons I thought was coherent. That's what I'm gonna say. That's my compliment. Is I was like, okay, I can pretty much picture them. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I am wondering, when are we getting the Helmicron Chronicles?
The Helmichronicles?
yeah, it's right there.
Yeah,
I don't know why we don't see that. Disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily for you, once we get to around book 40 or so, we've got several Helmicrons books in a row. The series kind of becomes mostly about Helmicrons at that point. So you will get. They didn't do a full Chronicles, but the end of the series is basically just a long, protracted story about Helmicrons, and we kind of forget about the whole Yeerk conflict.
This sounds great. Can we get I want Helmicrons versus Lyrans versus the Mercora. Let's just all these guys.
You need a fighting game.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but I did just in my head think of a start to fill out a Smash Brothers roster. They're in there.
They're sure are in there. Do you have anything to say about these giant bugs? Did they give you nightmares?
Only kind of what I already said, which is we've seen giant bugs. Why are we making such a big deal out of the giant bugs? You've done this before a dozen times. We know that the bugs look gross when they're big. I've done this.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's it.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so let's talk about what amounts to basically the only part of the book that I really truly like. All right, so they get taken on board the Helmicron ship, and we get to learn about Helmicrons and what they are and how their society works. So the Helmicrons, they push them to their knees, and they're like, crawl to the captain's quarters, slaves. So they take him to the captain's quarters. The captain is dead. She's covered in mold and cobwebs, dead for a long time, chained to the captain's chair, and there are ceremonial swords sticking out of the corpse. So the Helmicrons are all following a dead corpse as a captain. They want the location of the Escafil device, and Cassie, who realizes they can track morph-capable people, tells them that Visser 3 has it, so that they will go bother him instead of hunting down the other Animorphs. It becomes clear at this point that the Helmicrons have encountered Yeerks before. They do know what Yeerks are. I guess not Andalites, or at least Axe doesn't know. But they know about Yeerks. Anyway, there's some kind of argument amongst the Helmicrons, and they all pull out swords and start killing each other until it's resolved, and they're like, yeah, we'll go after Visser 3. So every time, so a couple of things we're immediately learning. Their captains are dead, and they kill each other anytime a decision has to be made. Uh, anyway, they call for a male to go get the Animorphs. It turns out that all of the Helmicrons we've seen so far are females. The males are much smaller, and they are all slaves. And so the male explains some of the nuances to them. He says that all captains must be dead, because any leader will inevitably make a mistake, and that's not acceptable. So anyone who makes a mistake has to be killed. So they only promote people who are already dead, or they kill people when they promote them so that the leader can't make a mistake. They call out in the book specifically that this is insane. They also make a point of saying that Cassie is male because she is a slave, and slaves are male. And he lays out the rules that they must all follow now that they are males, aka slaves. They must obey all females, they must wash their food before eating it, and they must be quiet and calm, and those are the rules. That's all the rules they have to follow.
You done?
Do you think that anybody picked up any kind of a fetish from reading this part?
No, this part, no.
Aside from me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a race of mean women that dominates. Well, at this point, I thought it was maybe just one man because they called him male. They don't say like get one of the males. They just go male.
Yeah, you've got
and
male.
The one guy comes out, and yeah, I did have one of my notes I did write down is I'm so fucking horny.
Yeah, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. No, none of the males have names. Marco names the one they're talking to Wuss.
That's also really funny. I mean, there's a lot. You just covered a lot of ground here.
Yes, I mean, this is the part where I figure, because the thing that I like about this book is Helmicrons, and this is the part where we get most of our Helmicron interactions.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just talk about the Helmicrons. You mentioned the captain thing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think this is a really cool and interesting sci-fi, or not even potentially sci-fi, just the concept of you're only perfect when you're dead. So our leaders need to be dead. Unfortunately, if you think about it for more than 2 seconds, it completely falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, it only works in this exact kind of context. You need to have a race of psychopaths, and you need to be kind of in a little bit of a jokey mood. Like if this is your like funny episode of your TV show.
But it feels like you could turn this into something. I don't know. For some reason, I'm picturing the engineer. I believe it's called from Alien and Prometheus. You know the giant dead like corpse they find in the very beginning of Alien. I don't know if you recall that, but
I didn't see Prometheus.
They just it's in the first movie.
I was gonna say this sounds familiar though from Alien, but I don't really remember it that well.
It's not like a plot point. It's just you just see it and you're like, oh fuck, that's cool.
Okay.
But it feels like I don't know. I'm picturing a cooler kind of like I guess it's not big, but it's like a dead captain that everyone's worshiping is kind of. But then it's like, well, wait, someone is making the decisions.
Yes.
Like who? You can't just keep going down the line. Well, then I guess I'm the real captain. Well, okay, we got to kill that person. All right, so who's next?
Well, the way Helmicrons make decisions is democratically, by which I mean whenever there's a disagreement about what to do, they all start killing each other until the only people left alive are the ones who agree with the decision. And that's how decisions get made every time there's a decision to be made. They just murder each other.
Yeah, is that what happens when they just start fighting? I sort of was not clear on that.
Yeah. No, there are a couple times in this book where they have to decide what to do, and whenever that happens, they just all pull out swords and start murdering each other.
Great. So there's that. You got. I don't know what else. And what else do you like about Helmicrons?
I mean, there's it's kind of. This is sort of an offshoot of K. Applegate's ants are psychotic thing. Like, there definitely seems to be some kind of like, what if I had an intelligent species. And I guess they already did the Nesk, but it was like, what if we explored it a little more? It seems like they certainly do repopulate incredibly quickly. Like, if they're murdering half their people every time there's a decision to be made, they must be like just churning out new grubs at an alarming rate. They don't say anything about a queen ever, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I think there's something to that idea with the in a non-jokey way of the dead leader. If maybe you had like a functioning like parliamentary government, but then you also had like a king or a queen, but then the king had to be dead or something like that. So you have like some ceremony where the crown prince is murdered, or I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. There's something there. It also feels like a Rick and Morty episode.
Yes,
like
yes,
a lot.
It really does. Yes, because like there's also that like what do you how do you feel about this? Is like what would a feminist critique of this even look like?
Well, as a feminist, I can answer this. I don't know. It's a female race. I mean, again, this is 1998, so this is basically the equivalent of like, you ever notice, boy, girl power, am I right? Like, that's all this is.
It almost feels like both. Like, it's so little that it's not making any kind of real statement. Like, you could be like, haha, I put a little girl power into my thing as a joke, or you could be thinking of it as like the opposite, where it's like, what if women were in control? Wasn't that a funny joke? But really, it's just neither. She just did it probably because that's like a common thing in like ant or bee societies, that the society is all women, and then there's like a couple male drones.
Now, at the very end, there is a little development that maybe we'll talk about later.
Yeah, at the very end, I like that part too.
Okay, Helmicrons aside, this is the first, at this point in the book, we're close to halfway through. Don't worry, we're more than halfway through the discussion. I was thinking, I guess there's no Yeerks in this book. Like, it seemed like they weren't going to come up at all, which I thought was a missed opportunity. And then this idea of, okay, let's send them after Visser 3 and like trick them into helping us. That is I liked that a lot, and I was excited to see where that went. Unfortunately, it did not go anywhere that I cared about. But in theory, I thought that's what this whole book should have been, is like, the Animorphs and the Yeerks both have to deal with these guys.
There are a couple of points in here that I have notes on that I'll expand on when we get to, but there are a lot, like, if they had cut out most of the bullshit at the beginning and all the padding where they just talk about how small it is, and all the like just what the hell are you doing at the end, and they'd like started off with these Helmicrons, and then they'd expanded on like the cool ideas involving like bringing Visser 3 and the Yeerks into the mix. Like, this could have been legitimately great.
Yeah, if it was well written, it could have been good.
You're right, but there are some good. I think I love the idea of the Helmicrons as a joke species, and I think that this part here expands on that enough to work. I love some of the other ideas in the book, but none of them are expanded on enough to really work.
Yeah. Two other quick points before we move on. I want Marco seems to take to this female-dominated society very quickly.
Yes, he loves it. So Marco has some very good jokes in this. Right off the bat, they say, you see our might and tremble. And he says, I see your might. Where's your tremble? Now, of course, at first he's dismayed because they don't get it. And he's like, oh no, who will laugh at my jokes? But almost immediately he realizes that if they don't get his jokes, he can be as much of a shithead as he wants and get away with it, because they don't even realize he's joking.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yes.
Now, on the other hand, and like you said, or like I was saying, at one point one of them is like, obey me, and he just says, yes, ma'am.
Oh yeah.
Immediately, it's like, okay, he's assimilated.
Yeah, he's here. And I'll let you continue, but we do got to make sure we get to this section on groveling, because it's pretty memorable.
Oh yeah, sure. Why don't you? Yeah, the groveling. Go ahead. That's funny.
There's a whole bit. It's one of the bits that I remember the best from this book. uh, is they tell him he has to grovel before the captain, and and he's like, how do you grovel? They say, you grovel in the style of your own people. And Marco sits back and relaxes like he's at the beach, and he says, um, I grovel before the mighty Helmicron captain, most mighty of the mighty, undisputed champion of the world in the dust weight category. We grovel like the pitiful losers we are. We grovel like a guy who hasn't got a date the day before the prom, and the only girl around is the head cheerleader. That's how much we grovel. Oh, mighty Helmicron dead guy, we grovel like a video game addict trapped in an arcade without a quarter. That's how much we grovel. You would not believe the depths of our grovelry. We grovel like a guy with a large order of fries and the only salt shaker is at the table of the school bully. And he seems to want to continue, but they cut him off.
Yeah. Okay, great. A lot of fun.
Like it. Yes, it's fun.
Now, look, as much fun as all of this is when I must circle back to the point I stressed at the beginning of our discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this Marco? The answer is because she wanted comic relief down here. But it should not have been Marco. In a Cassie book, she should have been paired with Jake. Mm-hmm. And this male-female dynamic could have been a background, a foundation for the two of them to talk about their relationship with each other. The fact that he's embarrassed by her in a bathing suit, for instance. Something... Or at least it could have been her and Rachel because they have a connection. It's Cassie and Marco. Okay, like that's kind of fun for a pairing that maybe we don't see all the time, but there's no opportunity for growth there. It's just nothing, and that is disappointing to me.
I agree. Like you only get so many chances to do your character. So and I think that would have been a really good opportunity. I do think that you need Marco.
Yeah, right. For the jokes.
Like Helmicrons are not serious. Like you can't.
But you could have even, and okay, maybe I'm trying to make the book something it's not, but you had in the departure Marco and Cassie at odds because he wants to kill the Yeerk and she doesn't. That again, if you had to make it Marco, that could have also been explored here of her wanting to like save or try to hear the Helmicrons out and him being like, we got to destroy the ship. But that's just not even a thought in their mind. Yeah. It's nothing like that.
We are definitely, we are overdue for a Cassie and Marco pairing because they even mention in book 20, Marco says, I'm a little suspicious of her ever since she quit in book 19. Like having that explored would be good.
Don't care.
Yeah, no, that here it's just all jokes. And you could have had a Marco, Jake, Cassie pairing here and tried to do all of it. Yeah, this feels like this is, and Helmicrons are so inherently a joke concept. It does feel like this should have been a Marco book, but no matter whose book it was, you were probably going to have a hard time developing anything serious with it. I mean, maybe not. Maybe you just had to try. But she definitely didn't try here.
Yeah, not getting ahead of ourselves maybe, but I don't think I'll save my overall thoughts for the end. But yeah, okay. What's next?
That's fair. All right, so they're going after Visser 3. The Helmicrons, they quickly track down Visser 3. He is in human morph in a limo, and so they start firing at this limousine, and Visser 3 sees them. And he's like, oh my fucking god, it's Helmicrons. Why? He's like Keenan. He's like, why? But it's clear he has met them before. He's not pleased. His guys start shooting at them with like bullets and shit in the middle of the street. He's like, just start shooting out of this limo at this toy spaceship. There's a lot of like fighting and maneuvering. There's a bit where the Helmicrons have to kill each other again because they don't know whether to go up or down to avoid incoming traffic. There's a lot of Helmicron infighting. Yeah, I mean, things are about to go off the rails, so I want to stop relatively frequently, even if we don't have a lot to say. This is one of the points that I really love the idea of what they're doing, and they don't do it. Imagining what this, like, where does Visser 3 know Helmicron's from? What did they do to him? What happened? I want this story. This is what I want. When we do our next fanfiction episode, we need Helmicron fanfiction because I need to know the history between Visser 3 and Helmicrons.
The Helmicron Chronicles. We need it.
Mm-hmm. That's
we
right.
Have to write it ourselves.
If you're listening, KA.
Yeah, maybe when we call her back. A piece of our mind. I love the idea of getting Visser 3 involved. Like I said, it's very funny when he's like, what? It's funny. And that's it. And then the things are big.
Yeah, and it's so promising, right? When the scene where he sees them and knows it's them is also one of the great scenes from this book, and it's so promising. Like, oh man, we're gonna great. No, that's all you get.
Yeah, that's the height of it right there. That's the peak.
Yeah, I also want to mention, Visser 3 drives everywhere in a fucking limo. Visser 1 would never have gone around in a limo. Like, you're just attracting attention. A limo is not even a Yeerk status symbol. It's a human status symbol. Like, why does he need a goddamn limo?
He's spending a little too long with the natives, I think.
Like, he was driving around in a limo when he was in his Aria morph last book, when he was supposed to be some jungle photographer. Like, it was like, no, he still has to get shipped around in a limo. He could have easily blown his cover off of that.
Yeah, look, a man likes to travel in style. I can't blame him.
All right. Anything else? I'm going to do another short section, and then we're going to get to the chaos.
No, yeah, let's get to the next section.
All right. So at this point, Cassie and Marco, they're seeing all the murder happening. They're seeing all the fighting, and they're like, enough of this shit. So they morph to fly to escape, which is now relative to their Helmicron size. They are now so small that they can see individual cells. They can see, like, the little organelles inside them. Another part where it seems almost like she's trying to be educational or something. Where
it's a magic school bus.
Yeah, like, oh, here's the names of all of the organelles, but I don't even know. They can see, like, everything is vibrating, and they say that's the vibrations of, like, individual molecules shifting around. The descriptions of what's going on here get very strange, and it's very hard to follow what they are doing exactly. But at a certain point, the Helmicron ship is hit by a Dracon beam. They manage to survive because they're very, very small, and they're all floating around aimless for a bit until they say, all right, we gotta just demorph. So they demorph, and they fall onto Chapman's head. There's a description of them in his hair. We get to see hair mites from the size of a Helmicron, and they describe them being very gross and terrifying. Stop before things really get crazy, and it's already just like by this point, as a child, I'm starting to get lost as to what's happening, but it's going to get worse.
It's at this point when I must once again quote, "This doesn't make sense, does it?" Which is that's the name of a new segment on our show. They're okay. They're very small. They're Helmicron size. Mm-hmm. They then morph to fly size relative to a Helmicron, okay, which is much smaller.
Yes.
But to a Helmicron, from their perspective, it's still the size of a fly.
Yeah.
Which means, like, if a fly is on my finger, that fly can't see my cells.
Well, but no, Helmicron cells are the same size as our cells. They just have fewer of them.
See, clearly, I'm not a student of science.
Like, if a Helmicron picked out a magnifying glass, it could see its own cells. Like, bug cells are not smaller than our cells.
I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess, okay. You're right. You're right. Okay. All right. You're right. I admit it.
I don't know.
I didn't, because I mean, like a fucking, yes, like a single cell organism doesn't, I don't know. I thought it was weird. I guess you're right. It makes sense. As an adult man who hasn't taken a middle school science class in many years, I don't have a strong familiarity with the many textbook vocab terms they use here, and I was a little bit thrown off by it. But okay,
yeah. And
they become Ant-Mans.
The whole thing here just kind of feels like she had this idea. What if they got so small they were as small as a cell? Let's describe that. What if they were on Chapman's head? What if they were on a head walking around? Wouldn't that be like, there's a lot of like, wouldn't that be cool settings that she just throws boom, 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 boom without any real thought to how to connect them or how to describe what's going on in a way that's coherent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just, I just, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not that well done. I would like to point out that Cassie describes that Chapman's head makes the most wonderful thermal from the heat coming off of it.
Oh, Jesus.
Also, the mites are gross, and you probably have them.
I don't.
You almost certainly do.
I have no hair.
They live in the follicles. Most of them live on your face, anyway.
No, I don't have any.
I think there's probably a lot.
No, I don't have any.
Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree.
No, you have a million of them. I know that.
I'm
clean. I don't have any.
It has nothing to do with that.
But I am clean enough that they're not there.
Gonna be in there.
I don't have any.
So
shaved head.
So
no mites.
I have a question for you.
Dynamite.
Do you have any idea what happens in the rest of this book?
No.
There's like 10 chapters left. we're only like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, so for listeners, you know how usually in the average Animorphs book, like the last couple chapters, we don't like our discussion sort of dies down because that's usually where the big action scene is, and it's just kind of a bunch of fighting and there's not that much to talk about. That is what 40% of this book is just it's just that. It's just a big action scene, which is usually, I don't know about usually, often my least favorite part of an Animorphs book, honestly, is those action scenes, because they're usually just not that interesting. They're just kind of a pew pew. We're in a hallway. We have to get this out of the way because there's a fight scene that needs to happen. And here it's not only that, but I can't follow any of this shit because they're tiny and they're being carried and then they're falling from one place to another place. And so who's big right now and who's small? I don't remember. I can't tell. It's just
there's like multiple set pieces per chapter too. Like it's not like, oh, and now they're all small on Chapman's head. It's like they're small on Chapman's head, and then they're small in the ship, and then they're small flying through the air, and then they're small on Axe's leg, and then they're small on Axe's wing because he morphed, and then there's like, yeah.
Now, I like the idea of a scene where, the blue box is the MacGuffin and everybody's trying to get the thing, which is a thing in movies that I love, where, you have that scene where there's like three or more different parties that all are like after the thing, and it's going down the stairs, and it's like, oh, one guy's got it, oh, it slipped out, now the other guy's got it. There's a very fun concept there, but you can't follow any of it in this.
Yeah, there's also the fun concept of, as everybody's fighting over this blue box, because I didn't even really describe, they all come together. I don't even know if
it's a sharing meeting.
Yeah, this might be the first time I have more bullet points laying out what happens here than I do notes like about it, and most of the notes are just quotes because I wanted to, for example, make sure I had the full text of all of the Helmicron logs in case I needed them, and I haven't been using them. And that's most of the text of my notes. Like, this might be the first time that I just kind of skip. Do you want me to go bullet point by like what
No.
actually? Okay, I think it's fine.
It's chaos. It's action. They're fighting. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they move from one thing to another. You know, as they said, everyone's fighting over the stupid blue box. The Helmicrons are there, the Yerks are there, all the Animorphs are there now. They all come together. There's also a cool idea with the Animorphs and the Helmicrons are just blasting off the shrink ray indiscriminately. So, like, you have like Visser 3 and a bunch of controllers are having a fight with the Animorphs, like on Axe's body. Like they're all tiny, like pew pew in the hairs. That's a fun idea. But also most of that happens off screen. It's like, oh, this fight is happening somewhere, but I don't know. Oh, now the fight's where we are. Cool. Oh, but now we're jumping off. We don't get to see it, and it's too chaotic to follow what happens. It could have been interesting. Even more interesting, or potentially interesting, there's a part where Visser 3 turns to the Animorphs and goes, you know what I hate? Helmicrons. What if we fought them together? And it's like, oh yeah, this is great. This is what I want. And then immediately it's like, nah, actually, fuck that. We're moving on to the next bit. We're not going to do that. They don't,
not even for a second. They jump ship from that so fast.
Yeah.
The one thing that I was ready to sink my teeth into that I wanted from the start of the book. And they're like, it's here it is. No. It sucks.
Like, imagine they'd actually done that. Wouldn't that have been great?
What a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite tropes in all of media is when the good guy and the bad guy have to team up. That's always fun. And they took that from me.
Yeah, it's really not great. And this is also, by the way, the point where Kay Applegate accidentally forgets which ship is which, and for the rest of the book, she just says, "Oh, you know, they were on the Galaxy Blaster before, and it got blown up by Drake."
Classic Kasu right there.
But they had been on the Planet Crusher, and so that does not help in terms of figuring out what the hell is going on. Let me tell you.
It doesn't help, although by that point it didn't matter. I wasn't trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, no, it does not anything.
It doesn't anything.
I should say Visser 3 is in a morph. He's some kind of weird octopus thing with blades all over its tentacles. Interesting idea. They don't do anything with it other than describe what it is because we don't see any of it or see it do anything.
Yeah. There are so like usually as I read, I'm highlighting just sentences here and there that I like or I think are interesting, even if I don't read them on the air. There are so many pages at a stretch in this part where I highlighted nothing. I was just wanted to get through it.
Yeah. The only truly good line is Marco saying, "You couldn't go mano a mano with a maggot," and that's sad because a maggot has no manos.
Yeah. As usual, Marco is maybe the only thing in this book who comes out unscathed because you can't write a bad Marco. Marco's always good.
You could make him not funny.
You can't though. Like even if you make him not funny, that's funny. He's perfect. He's my favorite fictional character
ever.
Yeah. Well, maybe number 2 behind Jesus Christ.
Whoa, getting controversial over there.
Oops.
Whoopsie.
Or Mohammed. Okay.
Whoa.
Was that too far? I think
we might. Yeah.
Well, I think they're real, right? Maybe not. Okay. Anyway, how does the book end?
All right. So Cassie, in this last section, Cassie had gotten Axe to fly them over the gardens because they're all in his body. No explanation as to what they're doing or how or why. But her plan was that if they acquire a new animal, then they should turn into that animal at normal size, right? Because that animal was huge relative to them when they morphed it. So she had Axe fly them over the Anteater exhibit because the Anteater is the perfect animal to fight a Helmicron. She did not tell him to fly over the Anteater exhibit or where the Anteater exhibit was. She had no ability to see what she was over, But fortunately, when Axe said we're at the gardens and they jumped off, they all landed directly on top of an anteater. And also, upon doing so, Cassie was like, yep, that's an anteater, all right, this forest of hair that I'm in. So they all morph the anteater, except for Tobias, and Visser 3 jumps down with them, and he also morphs the anteater. So now they're all anteater, or Cassie, Visser 3, whatever. Yeah, they're all anteaters, right. So Cassie gets some Helmicrons in her mouth, she laps them up. Visser 3 gets Tobias in his mouth, he laps him up, and Axe puts his tail blade at Visser 3's anteater throat, and there's like a standoff. And they all resolve to fix it. So, like, they demorph and get on the Helmicron ship. They unshrink Visser 3 and the controllers. They leave. They unshrink themselves. Whatever. It's all resolved. They were anteaters for, like, all of 2 seconds. That's the one we put on the cover of the book. Hooray.
Now, it sounds listeners might be like, wait a minute, what do you mean? And then it gets resolved. But how? Yeah, no, that's I think it's word for word from the book, and then it got resolved.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what it says. So as the Helmicrons leave, they talk to the males aboard the ship, and they're like, you should make a men's liberation movement. And the males are like, yes, now we shall be the mighty conquerors, and the females will grovel before us. And they and the Helmicrons fly off with like a war of the sexes happening on their ship, and they're killing each other.
All right.
I like that part.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So yeah. the whole the saving grace, not the saving grace, the revelation that they have to save the day is that, if we morph into something new, then it'll be full size. Which I actually had that thought, like, during the previous scene. I was like, I wonder if they could, like, acquire one of the humans and then they could be, like, full size again or something. But then I immediately went, no, wait, that doesn't make sense. That's stupid.
None of it makes sense.
And the book was like, no, we'll do that. We'll do that. But why? Why? There's no... Why? Why would it work that way? And not... why? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I guess... Does it make sense? I guess maybe. Maybe?
Now, the real question is, now that Cassie is unshrunk, can she morph into an anteater the size of the moon?
Yes, you could be a kaiju.
I don't think they ever think about it or morph anteaters again. Anteaters are pretty useless.
It was so... What a weight also by the 3/4 point going, where's the fucking anteater? What the fuck is this? Okay.
Yeah, not the first book that they didn't morph the thing on the cover until the last chapter.
No, it's not. Okay, so you read it out as if Cassie, her intention was the anteaters. I feel like she just wanted any animal at all, and there's no way she knew they were over the anteaters. She couldn't have.
She said before they started morphing, we're gonna morph the one animal that is perfect for fight, an anteater.
But I think that's once they landed on it.
Yeah, so she just knows. She can just tell by the hair that's as big around as she is. That's an anteater hair.
She saw it while they were falling, I think.
Maybe.
Well, it makes more sense than I've memorized the layout of the zoo and I know when to jump. That doesn't make sense.
None of it makes sense.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to figure it out here. You skip. Okay, Helmicrons.
I skipped a lot.
Yeah. One of the biggest reveal of the book.
Yes, there is a big reveal. And the reveal is one sentence long and is never explored.
Visser 3 reveals that Helmicrons are fungible.
Yeah. Unlike those tokens. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. These are fungible, and that means they can't be killed. If you kill a Helmicron, their mind gets absorbed into another.
Yeah, they have like a hive mind
Does that
or
mean that
something, but like
if
a
you kill
weird one?
one, another one has two minds in them?
I
Or like it's more their spirit or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Is this like Pemalite essence thing? Is this like all Helmicrons kind of share a hive mind and therefore you can just go back into it? Is this like you said they get just reincarnated or reborn as different Helmicrons? I don't know. I don't
It
think
is
we'll ever
so
know.
weird. And it's like, it was this added because they were like, oh, there were too many Helmicron deaths. We need to make people feel better. Like, don't worry. Cassie was about
Yeah.
to swallow 50 Helmicrons, but actually they would have been fine.
Yeah.
Because she didn't.
Yeah.
So
And that's also kind of ruins that because they have the whole standoff because it's like we're going to eat all the Helmicrons. Why would the Helmicrons not just be like, okay, do it, and just like why would the Helmicrons be like, okay, you can board our ship and unshrink?
yeah. Well, it also
Like what?
completely undermines the dead captain thing. So are they not? So they're not dead.
Yeah, well, the captain is dead, but their mind is now not the captain. They're worshiping a
It's
body. Yeah, no, I don't know.
the most ridiculous sentence ever in it. Like, why is this here?
Yeah,
It's crazy.
they're a fungible species.
Absolutely insane. And and then the whole thing at the end, the Helmicron male revolution, basically it is the Barbie movie. I just want to say. This
Now
is
that's
Greta Gerwig's Helmicrons.
what I want. The Helmicron Barbie crossover fan fiction.
That's what this society is. They're the Barbies and the males are all the Kens. I mean,
Need to make a legit note of this. I just need to go rewrite the screenplay for Barbie so it's Helmicrons instead.
yeah, okay. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about anything about Helmicrons, but this is a very stupid book. The entire back half of the book basically takes place in one location. It's very boring. The resolution makes no sense. It's so stupid. If you're making the Animorphs movies or the Animorphs TV series and you're looking for things to cut, immediately this book is being thrown into a fireplace. There is no consequence whatsoever here. This is the easiest thing to cut in the world. You shouldn't read this book.
So this is probably what's a little divisive about Helmicrons is that I think that having Helmicrons is necessary. I would be like, you need.
You think it's necessary?
You need. How are you going to read an Animorphs adaptation without fucking or watch or whatever without fucking Helmicrons? Everybody remembers the Helmicrons.
This is like the oatmeal.
This is more than the oatmeal. Okay. You need to have an episode that's just like, this episode doesn't mean anything, but it has Helmicrons. Now, you'd want to do it better than this, but you have to have the Helmicrons.
No,
because
this is what
everyone is just like, remember, like when people think about Animorphs, they're always like, remember the Helmicrons book? Nobody ever forgot the Helmicrons book.
Okay, I never forgot Geely either. Like, that doesn't mean people should watch it.
You have to put a Helmicrons in there. Listen, I really love chapters 15 through 18 when they're on the Helmicron ship. And yes, the rest of this book can be thrown in the fireplace.
This is what I'll grant you in the Animorphs movie. You can have an Easter egg. There can be a little spaceship in the corner as the post-credit scene, and then and the Animorphs fans in the audience go, "Oh, it's Helmicrons," and then that's it. They don't.
In the TV show, you need to have one episode that everybody argues about, where half the people are like, "Look at all the dumb Helmicrons," and the other half are like, "Why is this here? What's wrong with you?"
Listen. I'll say this: the Helmicrons as a concept. The idea of a book where a competing alien race comes in. That is an interesting idea. And the idea of a tiny race, okay, there's maybe something there too. But the way it is executed in this book is nothing of value.
I mean, yes, this book is not a good book, and you can throw out most of it. But I do like the Helmicrons in particular because it's not just those interesting ideas; it's also how unbelievably stupid they are. Like they are a joke, and that's what makes them so good.
Is this my new least favorite Animorphs book? It maybe is.
As I
this
said,
has
Helmicrons
maybe beaten Skunks for me. You're
just not a Cassie fan. This isn't really a Cassie book. Let's be real.
Yeah, as we've said, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, is this dumber than the amusement park shit? Yeah, it is. It has to be. It is, right? It's so stupid.
Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about this book or what I'm going to rate this book when the time comes because I'm just going to be looking at it like, well, the book is an F, but I love Helmicrons. Yeah, so what am I going to do? I don't know.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, no, there's no need to get ahead of ourselves on that.
Again, I know I've said this before about other things too, but like, I could almost see a world in which the Helmicrons weren't just one book. Maybe this is like a thing that develops in the background. I don't know. It's just there are other ways you could have approached this idea, and they didn't do them.
Now, calm down, John. I know you're hankering for more Helmicron action. You champing at the bit for more Helmicron books, but there's more story to tell.
Okay, I mean, what a welcome back this book was.
Yeah. Now, John, what if I told you, and again, Chandler's not going to like this. What if I told you this is not the weirdest Animorphs book? And what if I told you that the weirdest one's coming soon?
I mean, I don't even know that this isn't weirder. This is weirder than other ones we've already read. So, to be honest with you,
okay,
yeah,
okay, that's fair then.
Stupider maybe, but I don't know. Okay,
all right.
Pop culture references. There's a lot.
Yeah, do them.
And I don't remember some of these. I don't know what we counted or not. We looked to the Yeerks like Aztec gold looked to Cortez.
Sure.
Did we count that?
I don't know. Whatever you want. I didn't write it down.
Rachel looked like she just stepped off a page of Mademoiselle magazine. I didn't look that up. I assume it's real.
We looked that up for another episode. It is real.
All the references to Goodwill. That is a trademark place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like I feel like people maybe use it as a generic, but it is. You know what I mean? Like Goodwill, like a thrift shop or something. But
yeah, I guess maybe.
I don't know. I wouldn't know because I'm not a low class peasant.
Yeah, maybe the more low class you are, the more you're like, no, if I say Goodwill, I mean Goodwill. I don't mean Salvation Army.
Yeah, that's not me.
That's me.
I just have two words for you, Cassie. Ralph Lauren. It's one thing to wallow in dirt, but do you have to do it while wearing boys' jeans from Walmart? That's why we have Ralph Lauren for the outdoorsy types. Okay. A toy spaceship, Star Wars or Star Trek or Star something. Romulan? What kind? Romulan, Federation, Klingon, Dominion, Ferengi? Or maybe it was from the Babylon universe. Minbari? Shadows? Or was it from Star Wars? Was it a TIE fighter?
She knows at least one Star Wars ship.
Yeah, and definitely you would have guessed Babylon 5 before Star Wars.
K.A.
Fuck off, K.A.
Did they I mean, I guess they probably made Babylon 5 toys, but like, did they?
Yeah, they weren't big sellers. I don't, maybe they didn't. I don't even know. In the Goodwill, they also have Legos, not the right plural, along with hairless Barbies and headless X-Men. They find the ship next to the Klingon battlecruiser and the G.I. Joe attack module. Morphing masks pain like Novocaine masks tooth drilling pain. As a reminder, Novocaine is a trademark term. Flying around as birds. They look like an Audubon Society bird recognition poster. Audubon Society.
Right.
Trademark name. Snoopy and the Red Baron, Marco or somebody says about something.
They're like having that dogfight.
Sure. Marco's face is about the size of the Goodyear blimp, with feet the size of twin Titanics. The Wicked Witch gets to be full size, and I'm down here singing "We Represent the Lollipop Guild." Marco complains in reference to Rachel's The Wicked Witch. Again, funny. You can't keep a good Marco down. Honey, I Shrunk the Animorphs. His eyes were huge globes that looked as if they might pop and drain down like runny jello. Rachel is so tall she could have been the Sears Tower. Houston, we have a problem. I don't know if we're counting that. I mean, is that...
I'll count that, yeah.
Okay.
It's a ref.
Now we call Axe Mr. Spock. Cassie's the size of Mount Everest. Cockroaches are brown Godzillas. One cockroach literally the size of Walmart. Next time you go to a Walmart or a Kmart or Target or a big grocery store, stand out in front and look at it and think cockroach. I will. Helmicron Captain is illuminated like a movie star on Oscar night. Just wanted to note they do mention aspirin, which once was a proper noun, isn't anymore, and is not capitalized. So unlike dumpster, Kay Applegate and Michael Grant have recognized that aspirin is now lowercase a. Okay. They're nuts, pure and simple, Looney Tunes. They mentioned commercial strips with tons of fast food restaurants and muffler shops and banks and blockbusters. Okay. This one confused me. There's an empty, abandoned restaurant. I think it used to be a Penny's or something. Now, I believe we figured out in an earlier book that Penny's is J.C. Penney's.
Yeah, Penny's is J.C. Penney's.
But they say it's an abandoned restaurant, so I don't... Which is it?
Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
It's an abandoned restaurant that also used to be a J.C. Penney's? It's too much. It's like Lethal Weapon, and this is cool. This is the ultimate weird chase scene, Marco says. A lot of fun.
He says specifically Lethal Weapon 5.
Oh, does he? Wait, really? They had that many? Okay, fine.
I think they only had 4 at the time, and so he's been like, it's like the next... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many there are now. I don't know Lethal Weapon.
I think there's 6. Okay. This one's a subtle one, but in Visser 3's limo, the reflections of golden arches and big yellow mufflers and the word mobile slithered like a blue and red snake. So there's some one snuck in there. A face that could have been King Kong looking in the window of a skyscraper. A human the size of the Matterhorn. Bullet the size of a Greyhound bus. Each of the bars of the grill could have been an Empire State Building. You get the picture yet? Clear plastic trash bags stuffed with faintly pink jello. This one I had a question mark on. They mentioned the Great Plains of the Helmicron's head. Great Plains is capitalized. So it's a reference to like the Great Plains.
Sure, I guess. I don't even
versus like
that.
Generic Great Plains. I don't know. The Oscar for absolute insanity goes to us in one of Marco's diatribes about lampshading the weirdness. Huge fingers like the columns of Greek temples, nightmare faces the size of Great Lakes, which again is capitalized, but it's not the Great Lakes, at least in my book. It just said the size of Great Lakes. I don't know. Again, are we even counting that? I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't have that one written down, but yeah, I don't know.
Lions and tigers and fleas, oh my. And then Axe seemed no bigger than a 747. Was my last one.
So you got a couple in there that I missed, but there's a part earlier where they also refer to Tobias like a 747. Okay. And when Axe is a spider, they say he's the size of the St. Louis Arch.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I read that while we were doing the episode, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I noted that one. So there it is.
They're all pretty much the same. They were big.
They were all pretty much the same, Homer. Okay. What a comeback, folks.
What a comeback. This, here we are. Helmicrons.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I kept thinking of Omicron Persei 8 from Futurama. Sounds like that. You know, that's lure.
Where else might people find us if they need more Helmicron content?
Well, first of all, if you want to be part of the sharing, like Chandler or any of the fucks on Reddit, you can email us, theyerkyboys@gmail.com. Eventually, we will read it on the show if you wait long enough. And you can follow me at my personal website, which is jonathanestis.com. I have another podcast called Geeks on Trial, which you can find at other podcast places.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
You can follow me on Blue Sky at DogTimesMcGee, although I don't post there.
Fucking great.
Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next time when we will begin. I'm like reading something. Whatever. We will be talking about book 25, The Extreme, in which Marco turns into a polar bear on the Yerky Boys.